On a warm Friday evening, Olivia, a 25-year-old waitress, moved gracefully between tables at Belle Maison, an upscale restaurant in downtown Charleston, South Carolina. Known for its elegant ambiance, the restaurant buzzed with quiet chatter, the clink of glasses, and the soft strains of jazz from a corner piano. Olivia, with her calm demeanor and a glint of determination in her eyes, was more than just another server. She carried a lifelong dream: to become a pianist. Growing up in a modest household, her mother, a hard-working nurse, had nurtured Olivia's love for music despite their limited means. The old piano gifted by a neighbor became her sanctuary, a place where she poured her heart into melodies. Though financial struggles had forced Olivia to put her dreams on hold, she never let go of her passion. The grand piano at Belle Maison was her silent confidant, waiting for its moment. The door to Belle Maison swung open and in walked Ethan Montgomery, a well-known tech entrepreneur whose larger-than-life presence seemed to fill the room. Flanked by two equally polished associates, Ethan carried himself with an air of confidence that bordered on arrogance. He was the kind of guest the staff dreaded, demanding, loud, and always seeking the spotlight. Olivia caught his arrival out of the corner of her eye, but kept her focus on balancing a tray of drinks. She had encountered difficult customers before, and tonight, he would be just another hurdle to overcome. Ethan scanned the room with the precision of someone accustomed to commanding attention. His gaze landed on Olivia, lingering for a moment longer than necessary. She felt the weight of his stare but brushed it off, prioritizing her responsibilities over his theatrics. Yet, as she approached his table to take their drink orders, his eyes narrowed slightly as though he had already decided she would be part of his evening's entertainment. "What's your name?" Ethan asked, glancing at her name tag before she could answer. "Olivia?" That's a name that sounds like it belongs to someone with hidden potential. His tone was casual, but the words carried an undertone she couldn't quite place. Olivia smiled politely, jotting down their orders without engaging further. As the evening progressed, Ethan's table became the loudest in the restaurant. He regaled his companions with stories of his business triumphs, punctuating his anecdotes with exaggerated gestures and occasional jabs at those who, in his words, lacked ambition. His entourage laughed dutifully while other diners exchanged uneasy glances. Olivia worked quietly, her movements deliberate and precise, avoiding his table as much as her duties allowed. When she returned with a fresh bottle of wine, Ethan's attention turned back to her. "So, Olivia," he began, loud enough for nearby tables to overhear. "What do you do when you're not waiting tables? Surely you've got bigger dreams than this." Caught off guard, Olivia hesitated before answering. "I play the piano sometimes," she said softly, hoping to move on quickly. Ethan's eyes lit up with a gleam of mischief. "A pianist, huh? Well, now you've got my attention. Why don't you show us what you've got? There's a piano right there in the corner." The room seemed to still as heads turned toward Olivia. Her heart raced as she shook her head. "I don't think so," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm just here to work tonight." "Nonsense," Ethan declared, leaning back in his chair. "You can't hide talent like that. Don't be shy." His companions chuckled, clearly enjoying the spectacle he was creating. Olivia's hands clenched at her sides, her mother's voice echoing in her mind. "Never let anyone make you feel small." The challenge hung heavy in the air. She could walk away, but the dismissive smirk on Ethan's face made her pause. This wasn't just about a request, it was about respect. Taking a deep breath, she straightened her posture and met his gaze. "Fine," Olivia said, her voice calm but firm. "I'll play." The hum of conversation faded as she walked toward the piano. All eyes were on her now, but Olivia didn't care about the spectacle Ethan had tried to create. For the first time in years, she cared only about the music. Olivia approached the grand piano, her steps measured and deliberate. The polished black surface gleamed under the restaurant's soft chandelier light, and the air around her seemed to grow heavier with every passing second. Diners whispered among themselves, their curiosity palpable. Ethan leaned back in his chair, a smug grin on his face, clearly expecting this to be yet another moment where he held all the power. Olivia, however, had other plans. Sliding onto the piano bench, She let her hands hover over the keys, their cool touch grounding her. She took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment. This wasn't about Ethan or the attention of the room. This was about the part of herself she had pushed aside for far too long. Her fingers pressed down on the first notes, soft and tentative at first, as she chose Clair de Lune by Debussy, a piece she had memorized during her teenage years. The melody floated into the room, delicate and ethereal, weaving a spell that silenced even the faintest murmurs. Olivia's touch grew more confident with each passing measure, the music swelling and filling every corner of Belle Maison. The hum of conversation faded completely. Diners sat frozen, their meals forgotten as they watched her hands dance across the keys. The once lively table chatter was replaced by a profound stillness, the kind that could only come from true, raw emotion. Even Ethan, whose cocky demeanor had set the stage for this moment, seemed caught off guard. The smirk on his face slowly dissolved, replaced by a flicker of something else, respect, maybe even awe. As Olivia played, she lost herself in the music, pouring her heart into each note. Her memories surfaced with every chord. The long hours she spent practicing on a worn-out piano, the sacrifices her mother made, and the dreams she had tucked away for practicality's sake. This wasn't just a performance, it was a reclamation of her identity. For these few moments, Olivia wasn't a waitress or a struggling young woman trying to make ends meet. She was an artist. When the final note hung in the air, the room remained still for a breathless second, as though no one wanted to break the magic. Then, a wave of applause erupted, thunderous and heartfelt. Some diners even rose to their feet, clapping with an enthusiasm that brought tears to Olivia's eyes. Her co-workers stood by the kitchen entrance, their faces lit with pride. A few of the regular patrons called out words of encouragement, their voices blending into the warm energy that filled the room. Ethan's companions exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how to react. The bravado at their table had evaporated, replaced by a quiet awkwardness. Ethan, now the center of attention for all the wrong reasons, gave a slow, almost reluctant clap. "Well," he said, his voice louder than necessary. "That was unexpected." Olivia rose from the bench, her knees trembling but her head held high. She gave a small nod to the room before turning back toward her station. As she walked past Ethan's table, he called out, "You've got talent, Olivia." "No doubt about it." She paused, glancing at him briefly. "Everyone has talent," she said calmly. "It's how you use it that matters." Her words lingered in the air, a quiet but firm rebuttal to the arrogance he had worn so confidently earlier. Ethan didn't respond, his usual charisma muted by the weight of the moment. For Olivia, it wasn't about proving him wrong. It was about proving to herself that her dreams, her talent, and her voice were worth reclaiming. And as she returned to her duties, the pride swelling in her chest was far greater than any applause. As the applause finally subsided, Olivia returned to her station with a sense of calm she hadn't felt in years. The energy in Belle Maison had transformed entirely. What began as a typical evening punctuated by Ethan Montgomery's arrogance had turned into something extraordinary. Patrons now wore expressions of admiration rather than mere curiosity, and her co-workers offered her quiet nods and smiles of encouragement as she moved back to her duties. "Excuse me, miss," an older woman at a nearby table said as Olivia poured water into her glass. "I just want to tell you how beautiful that was. Truly moving. Don't ever stop playing." Olivia felt a lump in her throat as she managed a grateful smile. "Thank you," she said softly. Similar comments followed as she moved through the dining room. Diners who had barely noticed her before now stopped her to share their appreciation. "That was incredible," one man said. "You've got something special." The warmth of their words filled her heart, but Olivia's focus wasn't on the praise. She'd stepped up to play for herself, to reclaim the passion she'd buried under years of self-doubt. Yet their support reminded her she wasn't alone in this journey. At Ethan's table, the atmosphere was notably subdued. The bravado that had filled their corner of the restaurant earlier was gone. His companions avoided her gaze, shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Ethan, meanwhile, sat rigid, swirling his drink as though he were trying to think of something clever to say. When Olivia approached to deliver the check, he glanced up, his usual smirk replaced by an uncertain half-smile. "You've made your point," he said, his tone clipped, as if trying to regain the upper hand. No need to rub it in. Olivia's expression didn't falter. She met his gaze with a quiet confidence that seemed to unnerve him. It was never about making a point, she replied evenly. I just wanted to play. Her words hung in the air, striking with a sincerity that left Ethan momentarily speechless. He fidgeted with his pen as he signed the check, clearly uncomfortable with the power dynamic having shifted so completely. One of his younger companions, perhaps feeling the weight of the moment, offered Olivia a genuine smile. You were amazing, he said. Really? Thank you, Olivia replied, her voice warm as she turned to leave the table. As the evening wound down, Olivia felt lighter with every step. The tips that night were generous, more than enough to cover her rent and set aside money for the piano lessons she'd been postponing. But more than that, she carried a renewed sense of purpose. For years, she had let practicality overshadow her passion, convincing herself that her dreams were too far out of reach. Tonight had reminded her that her talent was something no circumstance could take away. When Ethan and his entourage left the restaurant, their usual grand exit was replaced by a quiet, hasty retreat. Olivia didn't linger on their departure. Instead, she focused on what lay ahead. The pride she felt wasn't in humbling Ethan or proving herself to a room full of strangers. It was in rediscovering her voice and reclaiming her dreams. That night, as Olivia walked home through the crisp Charleston air, she felt a clarity she hadn't experienced in years. Her journey wasn't over, but for the first time in a long while, it felt like it had truly begun. In the days following her impromptu performance at Belle Maison, Olivia noticed a shift, not just in how others saw her, but in how she saw herself. Word of her piano playing spread quickly. Regular patrons brought it up when she served their tables, offering encouragement and kind words. I heard about your performance the other night, one customer said. You're a true artist. Don't let anyone stop you. Olivia was humbled by the support, but the experience had planted a seed of determination rather than complacency. That night hadn't been about impressing anyone. It had been about rediscovering a part of herself she thought she had lost. Now, she felt a pull to move forward, to honor the dreams she had put on hold for so long. One afternoon, as Olivia was polishing glasses before the dinner rush, her manager approached her with an unusual expression. Olivia, he began, holding out a business card. A man who dined here the other night left this for you. He's a music producer from Nashville. He said he was impressed by your performance and wants to talk. Olivia stared at the card in disbelief. She turned it over in her hands, the name and number etched into the thick paper like an invitation to a new chapter of her life. It wasn't a promise of fame or fortune, but it was a door, a small opening towards something she had always dreamed of. Her heart raced at the thought. That evening, after her shift ended, Olivia sat at her apartment's old upright piano, the worn keys smooth under her fingertips. The sound it produced was far from the rich tones of the grand piano at Belle Maison, but it didn't matter. She began to play, letting her thoughts wander. Could this be the start of something real? Could she finally pursue the life she had always wanted? The fear crept in, as it always did. What if she wasn't good enough? What if this opportunity led to nothing? But then she remembered the way the restaurant had fallen silent during her performance, the applause that followed, and the words of her mother echoing in her mind. Never let anyone make you feel small. The next day, Olivia called the number on the card. The producer's voice was warm and encouraging. I'm not offering overnight success, he said, but I think you have something special. I'd like to help you put together a demo. Let's see where it leads. The prospect was both exhilarating and terrifying. Recording a demo was a step she had always imagined, but never thought would become real. Yet here she was, at the edge of a new beginning with nothing to lose and everything to gain. As she hung up the phone, Olivia felt a surge of clarity. This wasn't just about chasing fame. It was about reclaiming her passion, about proving to herself that her dreams were worth pursuing. The experience with Ethan had taught her an invaluable lesson. Her worth wasn't tied to anyone else's opinion or approval. It was something she carried within her, something no one could diminish. Her journey was just beginning, and for the first time, Olivia wasn't afraid of what lay ahead. She was ready to let her music speak for itself. As Olivia walked home from Belle Maison that evening, the crisp Charleston air carried a sense of renewal. The idea of recording a demo swirled in her mind, equal parts thrilling and daunting. She thought about the people she'd met in the restaurant that week, their encouragement, their admiration, and how they had made her believe in her music again. But most of all, she thought about herself, the girl who had once poured her heart into the piano, only to push those dreams aside for the sake of survival. That girl deserved this chance. A few days later, Olivia found herself standing in a modest recording studio tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. The producer, Greg Bennett, had welcomed her with a genuine warmth that put her at ease. "We'll take this one step at a time," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. "No pressure, just play what feels right." Sitting before the sleek black piano in the recording room, Olivia felt the weight of the moment settle over her. For years, she had played in isolation, pouring her emotions into the keys in the privacy of her apartment or in stolen moments at the restaurant. Now, her music would be captured, preserved, and possibly shared with the world. It was a vulnerable place to be, but it was also empowering. Her fingers hovered over the keys before she began to play, starting with a piece she had written years ago during a particularly difficult time in her life. The melody was tender, laced with longing, yet carried an undercurrent of hope. Each note echoed through the room, filling the space with a raw honesty that caught even Greg off guard. He leaned forward in his chair, his eyes narrowing in concentration as he listened. "That's beautiful," he said when she finished, his tone reverent. "Let's do another take. But honestly, I think you've already captured something special." For the next few hours, Olivia poured herself into the music, playing pieces that spanned her journey, compositions inspired by her childhood, her struggles, and her dreams. With each recording, she felt a piece of herself being stitched back together, her confidence growing with every note. When they wrapped up for the day, Greg handed her a flash drive. "Take this home," he said. "Listen to it. Live with it. This is the start of something, Olivia. You have a gift, and people need to hear it." As Olivia walked home, she clutched the drive tightly in her hand, her heart brimming with gratitude and possibility. For the first time in years, her dreams no longer felt distant. They felt tangible, within reach. The events at Belle Maison had been a turning point, but this was where her journey truly began. It wasn't just about proving herself to the world. It was about honoring the passion that had been a part of her since she was a little girl. The experience had taught her that true strength lies in authenticity, and that her music, her voice, was enough. And as she sat at her old upright piano that night, playing softly into the quiet of her apartment, Olivia knew this was only the beginning. In the weeks following her recording session, Olivia began to notice subtle but meaningful changes in her life. The demo she'd created with Greg had become a constant companion, a reminder of her progress and potential. Listening to it late at night, she felt the same emotion she'd poured into the keys: hope, determination, and a quiet pride in finally taking a step toward her dreams. Word about her performance at Belle Maison continued to spread, drawing in curious patrons who wanted to see the waitress with the extraordinary talent. Some left notes of encouragement, while others stayed after their meals to share their own stories of pursuing passions against the odds. Each conversation bolstered Olivia's confidence, reminding her that her music had the power to connect with people in ways she hadn't fully understood before. One evening, Greg called with unexpected news. "I sent your demo to a few colleagues," he said, his voice tinged with excitement. "One of them wants you to play at an upcoming showcase in Nashville. It's a small event, but it could be your next step." As Olivia hung up the phone, a mix of nerves and exhilaration washed over her. This was it, the door she had always hoped would open. For the first time, she felt ready to walk through it. In 2025, Olivia's story resonates deeply as a reminder of the transformative power of resilience and authenticity in a world often driven by appearances and superficial judgments. Her journey from a struggling waitress to reclaiming her identity as a pianist underscores the importance of staying true to one's passions, even in the face of adversity. In an era where success is often measured by instant gratification and external validation, Olivia's experience teaches us the value of persistence, humility, and the courage to step into the unknown. Through her performance at Belle Maison, Olivia not only silenced doubt, but also demonstrated how genuine talent and integrity can touch lives and inspire others. Her willingness to face her fears opened doors she hadn't imagined, proving that opportunities often arise when we embrace vulnerability and seize unexpected moments. As we navigate our own challenges in 2025, Olivia's story encourages us to revisit our dreams, nurture our passions, and never underestimate the impact of our unique gifts. It reminds us that true success is not about the applause of others, but about finding fulfillment in the pursuit of what truly matters to us. Like Olivia, we all have the power to rewrite our stories and shape a brighter future. Olivia's story is a powerful reminder of the courage it takes to pursue one's dreams against all odds. Her journey isn't just about playing the piano. It's about inspiring others to reconnect with their passions and believe in the value of their unique gifts. Now, Olivia stands at a pivotal moment, ready to take her talent to a broader stage. She has already shown us the beauty of resilience and the strength of authenticity, but she can't do it alone. This is where you come in. Share Olivia's story with others who might need a spark of inspiration. Leave her a comment of encouragement. Let her know how her courage has impacted you. If you've ever been moved by the power of music or someone daring to chase their dreams, now is the time to show your support. As for Olivia's next steps, what advice would you give her? Should she focus on building a local audience or take the leap and explore opportunities in Nashville? Your thoughts could help guide her on this exciting new chapter of her journey. Together, we can celebrate her triumphs and show that her story and her music truly matter. Let's help Olivia take the next step.